Call your favorite person and see if she's gonna get on the show this morning.
You're muted.
I am?
No, Jerome is. He was talking.
Okay.
All right.
I'm gonna beat both of y'all. This is the vulnerable community right downtown Savannah, Georgia. This morning we're going to start off with Laureen Boles. She's a candidate for Chatham County 8th District. And we also have with us, as always, Nactavia Marbley. And we're here this morning to give you the straight talk of what's going on, so you know what is happening in your community and you can make wise decisions on your own. So, Ms. Bowles, if you would you introduce yourself for us this morning?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Laureen Monica Boles. I am born and raised in Carver Village. I got a scholarship to Howard University, and that's where I earned a Bachelor's of Science in Engineering and Civil Engineering. I actually focused on stormwater management, dealing with a lot of flooding issues. And so I was excited to deal with those issues because I know that's my lived experience, right? And so that's what drew me to stormwater management. Now I did 28 years in stormwater engineering for ASME District Council 47, Local 2186 and 7, and I did that for 28 years, and then as we started to study stormwater management and flooding issues a bit more, I understood that there were opportunities to address stormwater and flooding on the surface. We often think about building bigger pipes, right? And putting millions and millions of dollars underground. So I went back to school and got a master's degree in city planning. And we often talked about building parks, adding amenities that could manage stormwater, but also providing amenities or benefits for the community. So I did that for 5 years, focusing mostly on environmental justice. Again, my lived experience coming from a port community. And so I retired after 33 years, and I was excited to come back home to Savannah. And in the last 5 years, I have been sitting on the Metropolitan Planning Commission. And most recently, this term, I am serving as treasurer as well. So, yeah.
Well, you have a wealth of experience there that we need to capitalize on. Miss Marble, would you please introduce yourself this morning?
I'm just excited about getting into this conversation. Again, I'm Natavia Sanders Mobley, and this is our vulnerable community.
Absolutely.
All
right. So, wow. Okay. So, in the Low Country, you bring this kind of experience, which, do you have any plans for the district as far as when you win that seat? We're gonna just say it like that, help you speak it. All right.
Before we get started, let me clarify something. This is a nonpartisan show, so be careful on the terminology. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So as I seek the seat, right? So let's say that. So absolutely. So I'm running on a platform to address housing insecurity. I have, in my past, I've raised $13 million to build 75 units of senior housing, affordable senior housing. I'm also running on a platform of environmental justice. Again, that's my lived experience. I've also had the opportunity to contribute to the U.S. Environmental Justice Act that was introduced to Congress and reintroduced to Congress in 2021. The last thing is economic prosperity for all of us. We want to benefit from being in a port city. We definitely want to make sure that all communities benefit, right? So we never want to pass legislation that only is a benefit to a segment of our society. We ask for everyone to vote for us, so certainly everyone should get benefits.
Okay, so you believe in community benefits?
I do.
Okay. Everybody believe in it, but it's sometimes hard to formulate it and get it actually to yield, if that makes sense.
That's right. And that's how, I often speak about, I had an experience where we were trying to address stormwater, and we were going to city councils and mayors and asking them to contribute millions of dollars to address stormwater. And I don't think anyone wants to give you that amount of money and not see the benefits of it. So everything was going to be underground. So we started talking about building basketball courts that had the easiest way to explain is to have a tank underneath. And so on top of the basketball court, there's a porous pavement, and the water would seep in through the basketball court into the tank, and water would be held there until after storms. So you didn't have street flooding. So we got the stormwater management, but we also provided a benefit to the community. And I'll tell you, there was a side benefit. There was a lady who lived across the street from the basketball court, and she said, that porous pavement that you're using for stormwater management absorbs the sound of the basketball. So I don't hear as much when they're bouncing the ball on the court across the street from me. So that's the kind of balance that I'm talking about, where we want to add benefits while we do our jobs as well.
So when you say economic prosperity, what would that look like? And let me frame it real quick, because right now we're moving into a generation that really believes in clean energy and renewable energy and all of that good stuff. And I could use all the big terminologies, but I'm going to just kind of keep it simple so you can keep it simple. But how does that economic prosperity kind of roll into that?
So I'm also on an energy development authority, and we just raised over $200 million for a state to have to provide those benefits that we're talking about in terms of reduced energy costs for people. And we're trying to decide who gets the money, how do we roll it out, how do we measure our success. And so I do that on a daily basis.
You raise the money.
We applied for a grant. I am a grant writer, and so so we applied for a grant. Now the one that I was telling you about for the affordable housing, that was with my church. That the $13 million was through the community development corporation that my church had. So again, you have to organize and be prepared. So like you said, when the money comes down, we need to be prepared to put boots on the ground and get the job.
So your church was a CDC.
We had a CDC as a member.
And they developed some stuff, or what did they do?
We applied for a grant to housing and urban development. And we actually received the first time, and I'll be honest, we didn't get it the first time. They thought we were another church who had defaulted on a federal grant. And so we had to wait a year and explain it wasn't us, right? And so we reapplied, and this time we did get the funds, and we built 75 units of affordable housing across the street from our church on a vacant lot.
Oh, wow.
So in terms of energy, I want to go back to your question about energy. So, we have funds available. There's a lot of money coming out through this administration, even the last administration. And so what we've done is develop programs so that those who are in need would get reduced energy costs. So there was a woman that I was working with. She received solar panels, and at the end of the day, her energy costs per month were $25 per month. And who wouldn't like that, right? Who wouldn't like that? And in fact, a friend of mine from another state is doing the same thing. He got solar panels and he's paying for them on his home. There are times, but he's not income eligible, right? So there are income eligibilities that you have to meet where he wouldn't have to pay anything. This woman I was talking
there's also tax credits out there too.
There are tax credits as well. Absolutely. Yeah. So there are lots of opportunities. We just have to be knowledgeable about where to go get the funds and how to apply them and make sure that it trickles down. I had a conversation. This was during the Obama administration when I raised $1 million for job training for green jobs. We were talking about energy and all that. So that was with Vice President Biden at the time. He brought the middle class task force, the first one in the nation, to our city because we had raised so much money. And we talked about all the opportunities to apply solar panels. We talked about wind energy. And so I've been a part of some grants for that as well, for wind energy as well as solar panels.
Right.
Well, I got a question for you since you said that. Here in Chatham County,
yes,
do you see the opportunity for that to happen here in Chatham County?
Definitely for solar panels. We get a lot more sun than some other places I've worked in. And so definitely we can do that. There is a lot of conversation about offshore wind. I was on a project off the coast of New Jersey. And so I did read about one that is going off the coast of Virginia. I haven't seen one in our vicinity, but something in Virginia, as close as Virginia, could certainly serve Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia.
Well, the other thing about that, because I'm always looking at, impoverished communities and just saying, okay, well, what can they do? Because I just see all the economics going everywhere else, even in the areas that's marked rural and not, so much inner city, they still get the economics, where the different warehouses, something to keep the jobs there. So, I'm looking also at solar panel maintenance and troubleshooting as a means, a job creator, right? Absolutely. So could that be something that you could help bring, whereas, it's one thing for us to be eligible for the solar panels and, low income still be able to, experience that technology, but it's another thing to be able to actually fix that technology, because it's going to be a time if you have these affixed to a roof, then they're part of that roof, and then it might, need some kind of
Absolutely. And that was how we raised $1 million, was just for that, green jobs. That's what it was for. So people would
Have
be
you seen any
trained.
green jobs doing that though? Because I always see it go to something.
Yeah, well, yeah, I did, and I saw it a lot in the Northeast, and that's because of, like you said, elections have consequences, right? So if your leadership at the state level, well, you got leadership at the federal level who's supporting it, but you need leadership at the state level also, so that it trickles down to your local communities. And so I've seen it a lot in the Northeast, right, where there were um, uh, legislators who were supportive of it. Now, and there's some things that we have to think about. And that, I've had this firsthand experience, some good, some bad, right? And so when we trained people for the wind turbine jobs, and we sought people from the inner city communities who were in need of employment, we needed the infrastructure in place to make sure that they can sustain that employment. There were people who didn't have access to automobiles, and therefore they were reliant on a bus. And sometimes there were places, like you said, in the rural communities, a bus may not even, go to that location. So we had to start to think about, where can we pick people up and take them closer into, get off at the last bus stop, and we'll pick you up and take you into the job. So they had shuttles running back and forth. But these are a lot of things about infrastructure that we need to think about as we're planning these opportunities for our communities. Certainly. I had, and this was, I'm glad you mentioned that, because during this conversation with the Obama administration, they didn't reach as many people as they would have liked to with some of the dollars that they were rolling out. And that's because there were barriers in place. One being infrastructure for people to get to the jobs. The second thing was, there were cities that couldn't apply because they didn't have the capacity to do so. We had 30 engineers working on our application and received millions of dollars. And I talked to a woman in a small city, and she said, "Miss, I don't have 3 engineers in my city," because they were a small city. They had a city engineer, and that was it. Most of their work was contracted out. So there's a lot of opportunities. We just have to be prepared to roll them out.
Well, let me say this with opportunities for employment and grant opportunities. Organizations like Building Future
Yes.
that works with getting students out of high school and putting them in apprentice programs. This sounds like it would be a good program to a good time to use that program and the availability of the students that who are going to college.
Absolutely. And so, and one thing I wanted to mention, certainly we want to have what we call knowledge transfer, right? So there are people out there with the knowledge, and people out there who have skills that need to be transferred, or knowledge that needs to be transferred for particular skills, and especially trades. They have knowledge, and everybody has knowledge in different ways of different things, right? And so we often talk about technical expertise and sharing that knowledge with others. But then those people who live in communities, right, these vulnerable communities, they have knowledge of their experience and what works and what doesn't work. I've seen that, like I said, I've had good and bad experiences on both, where we have planned for a community. And once we met with the community, they didn't like anything that we planned, right? And we needed to start over. So at the ground set, you have to have the community involved. They know what's happening in their community. They know what was on the site. They know what the communities wants planned for vacant sites. And so they can guide, and they can guide the future of their communities. In 2022, I had the American Institute of Architects come. I wrote a grant. It was successful. They came to Savannah with a team of maybe 7 or so planners, engineers, economists, environmentalists, to do a plan for the west side of Chatham. They left us with 39 pages of recommendations. So we're ready. We're ready to roll it out. I had worked with them as a volunteer in New Orleans after Katrina, in Augusta, Georgia after James Brown's death. And so they said, I want to give back to you, right? They want to give back to you. You wrote this application for Savannah. We're definitely coming. We're bringing a team. We house the team at the Floyd Adams Complex, Municipal Complex. So community members can go in and share their expertise with the team. Because again, they have technical knowledge, but they don't have the community's knowledge. So the community needed to share what their vision was, right? And so we have 40 pages of recommendations, what to roll out for housing, transportation, economics, and so forth, and all of that, health, right? Because
so is that plan comprehensive? Like, is it going to be in a comprehensive plan, or is that just an independent plan, and is it public?
it is public, and in fact, I'm working now with the MPC to and I don't want to promise people, right, because I'll write a grant, but it doesn't mean I'm going to get it, right? So we have an application that's going in for $20 million to fund the recommendations that the West Chatham neighbors came in and decided this is what we want for our community. So I'm working on it. Right? I'm working on it.
So if you've got this plan already set up, well,
Yes.
it's on paper.
It's on paper.
It's on paper. When you put it on paper, then once you get the grant, then you can move forward to.
I like when you say once you get the grant. Okay, go ahead.
Once you get the grant, then you can move forward on doing on implementing the paperwork. Am I correct?
Right. And we're just implementing the vision that the residents gave to us. So we even went as far as to ask them to prioritize the areas that they wanted to move forward with first, right? Whether it was health, transportation, economics, housing, and I think there's an environment. Now, I am wholeheartedly wanting to move forward with environment. That wasn't their first choice. The first choice was the platform that I gave you. It was economics, housing, and justice, and environmental justice. They did to that. Yeah.
So let me ask you this question.
1 minute, we got to go to break.
Okay. Okay.
We'll be right back. We'll be right back. We have to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with you with this interesting conversation this morning.
Okay,
on
great.
Global Community. We'll be right back with you.
Thank you.
Have you ever experienced a Juneteenth event? Come out to Port Wentworth and celebrate our second annual Juneteenth Festival. Friday, June 21st from 5 p.m. until 9 p.m. Come enjoy our music, our food, our heritage, our culture, and our history. It will be plenty of fun for everyone. Juneteenth is American history. It's a day that we celebrate and remember. It's a day that we look back, but more importantly, a day that we look forward. Join us this June.
Hello, I'm Richard Coleman, and I'm running for the office of Sheriff of Chatham County. And when I'm elected, I promise to inspect what I expect. Chatham County, it's time for a change, and that change is me, Richard Coleman.
All right, we're back. Now we can finish this conversation that we started.
We were getting into it, weren't we?
Yes, we were.
So what I was going to ask, again, I'm a community organizer, so I'm always going to be thinking on things that I see or deficits when it comes to efforts like this. And so, again, sometimes we have those plans and it's just being made with a clique of people and not really the broad of the community, because a lot of times we solidify those plans and then the community is responding to it like, we wasn't here, we wasn't there. So it's that, and I know you are like the think tank, so I'm not expecting, for you to be just on the ground saying knowing where the outreach efforts are. But do you think it's been a broad effort to push it to a broader group of people and not just a clique of them?
Oh no, definitely not a clique. So we housed the American Institute of Architects team at the Floyd Adams Center for a week, so people could go in and out. Now there's always going to be times when people just couldn't make it, they didn't know about it or whatever. So no plan is ever solidified, right? So we still want to continue to do outreach. We want some design charrettes so that even though someone may have said, we want a grocery store, or we want you to address traffic. It's still not solidified, because we need to go back into the community and say, this is what we're thinking from our expertise, but is this what you envisioned, right? And then we'll start to tweak it a bit more. So even once the funds come down, we still have quite a bit of tweaking to do. So we did have an introductory meeting at the arena, so that the team could meet people. And then they were housed at the Floyd Adams Center, like I said, for a week. And then the final presentation was made at the Coastal Georgia Center. So we tried to make it so that it was accessible to everybody. But again, still, there are people that probably didn't know about it. And we want to make sure that everybody gets an opportunity to participate. For West Channel, it makes sense that we not just house it for the communities of West Savannah, but let's talk about Port Wentworth, Garden City, Pooler, all of that in West Chatham in the county that will be impacted by decisions that are made. So they need to participate and give their opinions as well. I went to the Port Wentworth downtown reimagining session. It was probably one of the best I've ever seen, and I'll tell you that. I can't remember.
Reimagining has been around for quite some time. So you said that's one of the better ones that you've seen over the years?
The one that they just had in Port Wentworth.
Okay.
They just had one in Port Wentworth a few days ago, maybe last week. And the team did an excellent job of presenting. I don't know how many people they expected. The room was full, and that was the second time that the team was presenting to the community. So just like I'm saying that there's iterations, the community was asked, what do they envision? And then the team went back, put together some pretty pictures and some ideas about how they think it might work. And then I went to the second session when they were asking the community again, is this what you thought? This is what I thought you said. Is this what you said? And so people were then voting on what they thought was most important with little blue dots. So you get to vote. And there were some ideas that had maybe 15 dots and some had 1 or 2. So then you obviously know what the community wants you to move forward with in terms of priorities. So that's why I thought that was pretty good.
We're going to have to ask Ms. Boles to do a quick closing statement, because we've got the DA coming in. Do a quick closing statement for us, Ms. Boles, and then we'll bring on the DA.
I just want to say to West Chatham, that you're in Chatham County, that your zip code is certainly a huge determinant in your health and your wealth. So you want to be able to address issues with qualifications and expertise, and that's important. If you care about your health and your wealth, vote for qualifications and experience. That's the platform I'm running on. So please vote Laureen Monica Boles on June 18th. That's the runoff date. Early voting is from June 14th through the 17th. And I hope to see you out there. Thank you so much. Thank you for this opportunity.
Sure, always.
Okay, all right.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Our DA, where are you?
We have a black screen right now. Is she there?
So, yeah, I see Miss Jones. There she
Oh,
goes.
there she is. All right.
Hi. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes,
we can hear you.
It's so good to see y'all this morning. I apologize for my tardiness. I've been having some technological troubles with this phone, but we'll see what happens. I'm so glad to be joining y'all today.
Well, I tell you, it's a pleasure having you. Uh, I watched you yesterday on Facebook,
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
and you had some interesting statements there. And I'd like you to just give us a little bit more on those statements that you made yesterday
Oh,
about
yeah.
being
So,
safe.
yesterday was the Memorial Day holiday, and y'all know because of the news reportings that we've been getting we've had a rash of shootings, some fatalities, some with other people wounded in our city. And for a great while, it's been kind of known in law enforcement that the dog days of summer also comes along with an uptick in violence, usually domestic violence a lot, particularly, but we're also kind of seeing this in terms of gang shootings, neighborhood wars, and fights and stuff like that. And those kinds of things are kind of going on all the time. But when you have a holiday where people are gathering and where people are out for some reason, tempers flare, and we end up getting a lot of shootings on holidays. And so as I don't really go out myself like that, but I know that people do. And one of the things that it has dawned on me, y'all, is that by the time a shooting happens or somebody dies, it is often too late because somebody's been injured and a life has been lost. Even when the prosecutorial system is working perfectly, and even when law enforcement does everything that they are supposed to do, it'll never bring a person back. It will never make it as if that harm did not happen. The best way to do that is by taking preventative measures and doing what we can to make ourselves safe. The biggest part of that message, or the impetus for that message, is that you can rely on law enforcement. Yes, you should be able to rely on your criminal justice system, but you are your own best agent to prevent harm to yourself and others. So with that in mind, I wanted to just make a public post on things that people could do to prevent shoot, not just to prevent shootings, but to prevent harm and to keep themselves out of harm's way. So that's what the post yesterday was about.
Yes, and what I found interesting about it is that you didn't blame nobody. You didn't lay blame for to nobody, and that is really interesting to me because everybody pokes finger at everybody else, and in this day and time, if we all pulled together, we could work together. But it's
I
something,
agree.
and it's something that it seems as though because we are who we are, nobody wants to pull together.
Well, um, I agree with that, and I noticed that. And some of that is political, some of that is psychological, right? Whenever something happens, we always want to ask ourselves why. We want an explanation. And so as a result of that, I think we end up figure we there's a tendency to point blame. Oh, this shooting happened because these cases weren't prosecuted, or because we have a DA who's not prosecuting these crimes, or because the police department is short by 120 officers, or because that's not why shootings happen. It impacts our ability to address it, but that's not why shootings happen. And so as an elected official, my goal is twofold. Really, is number one, to get to the root cause of why those kinds of things happen and address it at its root, right? And number two, I firmly believe that between our all of our departments and all of our electeds and our government officials, we have enough time, resources, money, energy, and effort to go around to work to fix what a problem that plagues us all. It does no one any benefit to lay blame at another person's or another agency's feet. So what I am trying to do is make sure that the community knows right? What they can do to empower themselves, because public safety is everybody's issue. And public safety, crime is everybody's issue. I don't care if you're city or county, black or white, rich or poor. If it's going on in Savannah, Chatham County, it's happening to all of us. For example, when you see a lawless shooting at City Market, I it I went down there the day after to take my daughter to dinner because it was her birthday. And I know that's where she wanted to go. But then I thought to myself, man, should I even be here? This is unsafe because this shooting happened. And what if there's retaliation? It's on everybody's mind when you go someplace and you have to ask yourself, am I safe? Am my family safe? So what I aim to do is not to blame anybody, but to make sure that everybody is equipped and empowered to make the best decisions they can make for themselves. And this is not hard stuff, y'all. This is not hard stuff. So using my goal as a DA is to figure out how I can add value to my community, not just in prosecution, but also in keeping them safe in public safety. So the things that I talked about on my Facebook Live yesterday are really not no, there it's not rocket science, but having prosecuted these cases before and listening to what victims tell me, it helps me to tell people what to do in the future to kind of avoid a violent situation or to avoid
Miss,
being caught up.
Mrs. Jones, I'm fasting from Facebook, so I missed that post yesterday. So I'm kind of out of the loop. Can you share a little bit of what it was? Like, kind of give me a synopsis.
Yeah, that's a great question. So there were about 10 points. I'm gonna run through them. They're not very long.
Okay.
Um, and so they applied not just for Memorial Day, but every weekend, especially during the summer. So number one is try to avoid clubs, crowded places, and congested areas, particularly during holiday weekends and on big weekends where shootings are known to happen. And so everyone likes to go to City Market and everybody likes to party. But if we know that those are the hotbeds that we've had shootings in certain areas in our city, you may want to consider staying away from those places. And if you do go, try to go earlier in the evening and try not to stay late until the night. So, try to be out of there by 9, 10, and not stay down there till into the daylight hours of the morning, 1, 2, and 3.
And so
Because
this
that's
sounds
when.
like common sense then. So you're using some common sense methods that probably a lot of people that have been safe usually follow. So you talk about root causes, and I know the one of the biggest things is all of the alcohol and consumption down there. Is that a root cause of could that be a root cause of the hike in violence?
Yes, it's definitely a factor on both ends, because when we're dealing with masses of people, it's hot outside. When people have been drinking, things escalate more quickly. And so something that could have just been a disagreement, like, oh, you disrespected me, oh, you bumped into me, oh, you tried to talk to my lady, just stuff like that. When you're drinking, you lose the inability to think rationally. So that is one of the things that I think is hugely important. But there's another tip on here about drinking on the other side. If you want to prevent yourself from being a victim, I try to tell people, when you go to an outing, whether it's a club or a barbecue, if it's a club, watch your drink being made. Watch your drink being made. Don't take your eyes off the bartender. Watch your drink being made. But you also have to think about your consumption, because the more alcohol you consume, the more vulnerable you become, and more likely you are to be subject to be victimized. So that's always important. And alcohol certainly does play a factor. But if you're at a house party, try to make sure that you're going to parties and barbecues and gatherings with people that you know, who invite you when you know people on the guest list. Don't just show up the random house parties that we used to go back to in the 80s and 90s, like, oh, so and so is having a party. I really don't know them, but I'm going to go. Don't do that. Try to make sure that you get an evite or that there's something like that, and only travel with people that you know. That's also very important. Do not travel alone. Travel in groups of between 3 to 5 people. More than that is usually considered a mob and is going to draw police attention, but less than that is less safe. So make sure that you're doing that you're traveling in groups. But when you do go downtown to travel, or you go out wherever you go, avoid crowds of stationary people, mass crowds that are gathering on River Street and places like that. Because what happens is the our research and history, our evidence has shown us that people tend to shoot into crowds. They may be trying to shoot one person, but if 300 people are standing in a group, maybe watching fireworks or listening to music, people tend to shoot in those kinds of crowds, and a lot of people, innocent people, get hurt. And even if they don't get shot, people get trampled, they get injured, they get pushed over, and they, end up in a hospital. So don't try to stay a distance away from a mass crowd, because it also makes it hard for you to move and find cover, and it creates chaos. Um, but when you're going to like a barbecue, let's like a more intimate setting, not necessarily a club. Again, pour your own drink if you can. Keep your drink with you at all times. Don't put it down. If you're somebody that's hosting like a barbecue, like many people do for the 4th of July, which is coming up, right? If you know that you have somebody that's in the game or dealing drugs or carrying a weapon, and I understand that you might love them, but maybe they can't come to your barbecue because you might have family members, you might have kids there. We have a lot of cases in our office where people disrupt funerals, barbecues, birthday parties, weddings, and anniversaries, and all kinds of things, because they know that target that they're looking for is going to be attending that event because it's important to that family. And what do? They bust in the barbecue and just start shooting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not safe. So you got to tell, but this requires beforehand us learning to have courageous conversations with the people that we often know and love. Listen, I know what you into, right? And I got to keep my kids safe, my home safe, and my family members safe, right? So you can't come here on that day. And it's hard, but it has to happen. Some of the other tips that we talked about is, you know sometimes we think that we're invincible until something happens.
Mm-hmm.
We think that we're invincible until a crime touches us or it touches our family. But we need to create a heightened state of mindfulness and awareness. So I always tell people, and particularly women, if you have valuables that you wear on you, a necklace, valuable jewelry, or whatever, consider not wearing it, consider leaving it home, whatever. But if you do carry it, wear it close to the body and conceal so it can't be snatched, so you won't be victimized. But um in addition to that, when you carry your money, um and I know a lot of women, we rely on our purses get snatched, and a lot of it's not uncommon for people for us to see robberies by snatching during this time of year. Wear your valuables on your person, right? Wear your valuables on your person. And I'm not trying to be graphic, but my grandmother used to keep her money pinned
Mm-hmm.
to her slip and inside her bra. Okay. And so nobody was getting to that. But if
Mm-hmm.
you do have foldable money, I notice people do this a lot. If you could cancel your cards if your cards get taken, but if you do have foldable money, and I suggest that you do carry some, because it's just an easier transaction if you should find yourself in trouble. People love, I see people do this all the time. They put the small bills first, right? And then they fold it with the larger bills on top. Why would you do that? I want somebody to think I got a pocket full of ones. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
So fold your money with the lowest bills on the outside, so you can get to those first without everybody seeing how much money you have. So
Exactly.
just like little tips and stuff like that, um, we just want people to be aware of, because we want to look for somebody to blame when something happens, when we could prevent a lot of heartache if we are mindful and take care of ourselves.
You
So,
know, there's something that you mentioned something earlier about weapons and alcohol. Both of those give people false confidence, and the mixture of both. What do you think about your governor, if you can, and this giving everybody a right to have concealed weapons? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think what makes concealed weapons dangerous is not just the fact that you never know who's carrying. But I think the bigger problem is that we don't have responsible gun laws. You should be required to go to a mental health examination if you want a firearm. You should not, a gun should not be easily accessible or easy to obtain. We should stop selling shotguns in Walmart, right? I mean, like, common sense gun laws. Like, nobody is saying you can't have a right to carry a weapon. We can minimize a lot if we go back to the root. Like, we need to make sure that weapons end up in the hands of people who know how to use them. And I'm licensed to carry, and I carry a firearm, but I don't. I find it very interesting that when I went to go get a license to carry, I filled out some questions, but I didn't have to take any kind of mental fitness test. Nobody cared if I could shoot a weapon. Nobody asked me, did I know the 12 laws of gun safety? Never point a gun unless you intend to shoot, never pull a gun unless you intend to shoot. We got a lot of people, tempers are flaring and they pull a gun or they shoot the gun up in the air to scare somebody, and then somebody ends up getting shot. The data and the science shows that a lot of people who own guns, the the people who are injured by firearms are the people who are in domestic situations and people that they know who end up getting shot with those guns, not a stranger who's breaking into your house, right? Nobody asked me why I wanted a gun or why I felt like I needed a gun. We have a long ways to go before we implement smart gun laws. And I think that if we started there, we would see a great reduction in a lot of American violence. And I'm talking about everything from a club shooting to a gang shooting to school shootings. Where are these guns coming from? Right? And so we need to be smarter about who gets that kind of firepower. And you should have to show yourself worthy to be able to carry a gun because it's deadly.
You know what? You said something in the beginning just now. When I was coming up, my father always told us, "You don't pull a gun unless you intend to use it, and you don't touch a gun." They had a strict rule in the house: you don't mess with those guns. Now kids go in there, they know where the gun's at. They put their hand on the gun, they play with the gun and everything else. No, we didn't do that. We couldn't do that, and that is one of the problems that I see that we have, and that we just don't have the power to enforce what we learned because of people saying that disciplining your kids like we used to. Because if you
You're
used to,
right.
yeah,
In the state of Michigan was one of the first cases where a mother and father were held responsible and went to jail for 10 years and 15 years respectively because their son went to a school and shot the school up, and he had mental illness, and they knew what he was suffering with, and knew that there were guns present and guns in the household. And when I read that opinion, it was very it was the first opinion like it. It was and I thought to myself that, some people, the reactions to that case were kind of 50-50. Like, people were on the fence, like, how can you blame the mother for the child's, or the parents for the child shooting? Perhaps you should, because if we somebody's got to accept responsibility for the carnage and blood spill that we are experiencing, not just in our nation in school shootings, but that we're experiencing right here in our own communities. Where is your child? I have two children. They are 14 and 16. I should know where my child is. I should know whether or not they have access to a firearm. I should know where they spend their days and nights. And I should be on top of those things. And to the extent that I am not, then I and or to the extent I say I know that my child is been a victim of bullying or struggling with mental illness, and I don't do anything but I make guns accessible to them, I should be responsible. I have contributed to the crime itself. But everybody wants to absolve themselves of guilt when it comes to violence in America, and prosecution is just a small sliver of that. Yes, we believe in putting people behind bars and violent crimes and stuff like that, but there are a lot of other actors involved in this that could help to keep our communities safe.
Love it.
I will agree
So
with you 100%. Go ahead, Native. Yes.
yeah, I just want to hear about what she's done these last 4 years. I know you're just finishing up your first term and you're going for the second one. So I'm just trying to catch up. So just if you don't mind giving some highlights of what you've done and what you plan on doing on your second term.
Yeah, Natavia, that is a huge question that I've gotten a lot over the past few weeks. And every time someone asks it, I never have an exact answer. But let me tell you what I did, what I did with the help of my team and staff, because let's be clear, I could not do this
Absolutely.
alone.
Right.
We literally helped to resurrect the criminal justice system. When I took office, people had not physically been working in the office for a year, right?
So
And
huge
guess
turnover
what?
with staff. Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then they did not have computers when I got there. They didn't
Okay.
have laptops. So what were y'all doing for a year? While y'all were at home in your pajamas and the courthouse was closed? Basically nothing. And so the taxpayers, that's an issue. They were not working because they could not work. They didn't have the equipment to work at home. When I came in that office, I required 100% reporting. I gave everybody an office issued laptop so that if you do have to be out at because of COVID or whatever, you can continue to work. We can monitor your work and you could be productive. It took me the first year and a half just to get the office back up and running again. I think a lot of people, that's lost on a lot of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I came in, but beyond that, but leaders don't complain. They work and they make it happen.
Right.
So we got about the business of um working on the backlog and reducing the backlog of cases. When I took office in 2021, we were still prosecuting cases from 2016 and 17.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And we still have cases from 2018 and 2019, a lot of them. And so, people blame a lot of things on COVID, but our criminal justice system was slow to begin with. And that's why when I came on board, I wasn't just looking to work this office, I was looking to redesign and revamp this office to make it more efficient, because there is no reason that a victim or a defendant should have to wait 4 years before their case goes to trial. That's ridiculous. For the victim, that means 4 years of no justice. And for the defendant, that means that you've had a criminal case hanging over your head for 4 years, so you can't get a job for 4 years, whether you in jail or out on bond. You can't do nothing. Your life is held up for 4 years because you got a pending case. That's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
So I work to make the justice system, our criminal courts, more efficient by adding paralegals and creating a new early intervention program. We have had less staff and less resources, but we have prosecuted more murders, serious violent felonies, and DUIs than the administration before us, hands down. Why? Because you got to be an engineer. You got to learn how to change the system, and so that's what I've been working to do. We have expanded our services to the youth and youth justice involved youth by taking on CHINS cases, which stands for Children in Need of Services. These are children who are at risk but who have not yet had involvement or have not been arrested or don't have a criminal charge. The reason those cases are important is because we know, because of the needs they have, they need intervention, they need counseling, they need services, they need conflict resolution, they need support, they need tutoring, they need academic help to keep them out of the system.
Mm-hmm.
The last administration before us said, we don't want to do that. That's too much work. So we made it a part of what we do and the services that we provide.
Well, that sounds like
And
an
through,
aggressive attack of recidivism, correct? You
well,
trying to
correct. I
prevent.
mean, my goal is to keep young people out of the system,
Okay,
because people say, oh, even if you commit a juvenile offense, your record gets expunged or sealed.
not
Your
true.
record might get, yeah, it it's supposed to be true, but in reality, it doesn't work that way. Because let me tell you, what most people don't know is that law enforcement and judges and the criminal courts can always see your criminal involvement, whether it's sealed or not.
Mm-hmm.
So when you driving down the street and you got a broken tail light and the person runs your plates, they can see that you had a juvenile court case. They can see that, right? The only people that it's sealed to are people in the public, like your employers, and maybe if you apply for a school or something like that. But it's not invisible to everybody. It's really not invisible to the people that matter. Um, so that's not really the case. So my goal is, I don't want you in the criminal justice system at all, because once, criminal history and criminal record or not, once you have that stigma over your head
Mm-hmm.
of having been arrested or involved in the justice system,
Mm-hmm.
it gets harder and harder for you to break out of that and
Mm-hmm.
to recreate yourself, right?
Yeah.
And let's be clear, y'all. I'm gonna say this. This is especially true. And if you don't believe me, because I always like to cite my references. There's a book by I can't remember her name. It's called The Rage of Innocence.
Okay.
And it talks about the criminalization of young black children.
Okay.
People do not see young black children as children. They see them as statistics and criminals. And what happens is, you don't know how many calls I get as the district attorney from people in our community who are affluent, often white, or who have a lot of money, who call and say, well, yeah, this is just a bad kid who got in trouble. Can we do something? But a lot of young black kids and Latino kids, and they don't have those advocates. Asian kids, they don't have those advocates. So they experience our justice system in a different way than their counterparts,
Mm-hmm.
because we're still very willing to see white young people as, oh, just young white young people, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you take a black kid, male or female, from Savannah, same age, it's easier for us societally to see that person, that child, as a criminal, right? And it's not fair.
And I mean, the media helps a lot with the stigma, with the stereotypes and all of that. So it's sad.
Well,
And
it
I
is
don't even
sad,
know how we
Natavia, and
undo that stigma though. Like it's so embranded and not. I mean, it's embranded in media. It's embranded.
it is true. And Natavia, I want to tell you this, because my while that is true, A is not a secret. And we have to be talking to our communities, because our culture, through TikTok and YouTube and all this stuff, you walking around tatted up, looking like a criminal. That doesn't help. Okay. There was a young man that I saw on Facebook who graduated from Effingham High School, and his message was powerful, and this brother was dripped in honor cords and sashes, and you could tell he was a well decorated student. I smiled, because in response to that post, I said, this is what I want our kids to see. I want our kids to call this drip, because he's dripping in talent, drip dripping in discipline, dripping in potential, dripping in success, dripping in future. He is dripping. You could see it, those chords. I was like, instead of investing in the wrong things, that's the type of drip I want to see. That thing made me feel so good in here. And so what I'm trying to say is, at the same time that we speak into the system, we need to be speaking to our culture and to our people. First of all, I say this as a black woman, all God's creatures are beautiful, right? And as a woman of color, I'm so proud to be a black woman, because we have so much to offer. We're talented. We make something out of nothing. We are resilient. We are proud. There are great cultural things to be proud of. But I, at the same time, so maybe I am biased in that respect, that I really want our children, my children and everybody else's children, to redefine what success actually looks like. You don't have to be a social media influencer. You can grow up to be important. And yes, you can make money, but what's more important than making money is making change. So as much as I am speaking truth to power to this system, to get the system to change how they see us, I want us to have courageous conversations in our community about how we change our ideology and mindset of what swag really means.
Right.
Swag means I'm building a future for myself. I'm confident because the days ahead of me are bright. We need to be speaking those messages to our children.
You know,
Right?
this is a side of Shalena Jones that's not often seen.
Mm.
And you see the real inner DA right now,
Hmm.
speaking from her heart. And
This is the only side I ever seen. I didn't know it's another side to you.
yeah, there's another side to
It's,
her.
Okay, I don't want to see that one is. See,
It's another side to her.
I'm taking out her tips,
it's,
so I ain't gonna ever see that other side because I'm taking all the tips she just gave us.
No, but
yeah, you know what? I'm blessed because I'm able to. I come from the. I'm very, very blessed and fortunate because I came from the pit and went. God took me from the pit to the palace, right? And so I don't know another way to be. But in the same way that I believe that God gave me this duality and this passion. I have a passion for this work, and this is why politics frustrates me because this ain't nothing to play with. People's lives and futures are tied up in the decisions that we make. And I believe that I just believe that our culture and our young people are going in the wrong direction. And not all of them, but I think that we as a culture have to redefine and change the appetite because everybody can be an Instagram model and everybody can be a rapper and everybody can be a basketball player. That only applies to less than 1% or 2% of our society. But we got to grow to there was a time when education was so hard to get that kids who went through school would go to school and have dreams to be a Thurgood Marshall or a Shirley Chisholm or a MLK. Our kids need to get back to dreaming those things, and they have lost the appetite for excellence. And I tell young people, and I hope I get a chance to tell more young people, your life don't start when you get 18 and graduate from high school. We're going to clap for you when you walk across the stage. And then we're going to ask you, we're going to help you to get to what's next. And even if it's not college, get into a vocation, get credentialed, go work for the unions, whatever it is you do, do something because we want to go to your next celebration and your next celebration. We want to go to your wedding. We want to go to your award ceremonies. I love, we can do this. We can do this. We can do this. And and as much as I am fighting for our systems to change, I'm also fighting for our people to change.
Hmm.
And
You keep being that
and
light. You keep being the light. You are, you know what I had to understand. I can't say the world is God's problem, but if I stay in my lane and I make my impact in my lane, because if I go over in somebody else's lane, then my lane is going to be unmanaged. So you stay in the lane that God has you, and you keep on, and everybody else has a duty too. Don't just remember that, but keep being that light. I'm really enjoying this.
well, Miss Jones, we have enjoyed you so immensely this morning. I watched you
thank
yesterday,
you. Thank you.
and day before yesterday, because the day is Tuesday. Day before yesterday at the church, I watched you. But
Oh, was
uh,
that
yeah, I had my eyes on you.
you
But
know what? Y'all tell you what, I'm gonna go with you know what? Let me tell y'all something. I'm confess this to you right now because y'all know that above all things I try to be transparent. I promised God that I would do this in the way from the very beginning, I promised God that in the beginning, I promised God that I would do it because many of you who don't know me, I'm a private person. I've always believed in work, church, and family, right? You never saw me in the streets before. That's not who I am. But I promised God that this time I would do this fearlessly without I was personally, professionally, I was attacked, but I promised God to leave it all on the court and to be perfectly transparent so that I can touch as many lives as I'm able before he completes this assignment for me. And so thank you for giving me the opportunity to be present. And if y'all know of something that I need to be at, please tell me because people assume I know everything and I don't. But tell me, we got to change our community. We got to shake things up. It's time.
Okay.
It's time. And we can. We can. I'm proud of
Yeah,
us.
Hmm.
we're proud of you, but we have run out of time this morning. We're gonna have you back because we got to give you a whole hour. Uh, our DA, Shalena Cook Jones, is she's got that beautiful smile on her face this morning, and she
Thank you.
has really explained herself. We give you 2 minutes to do your closing statement.
2 minutes. Wow, you're gonna give a lawyer and a preacher 2 minutes to close? That's a
You,
challenge.
but you
Listen,
know they don't always follow the rules. Now, go for
you
it.
listen, but I gotta be respectful of the time and respectful of the platform. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to be heard. You don't know how much that means because I've gotten a lot of media doors closed in my face or people twisting my words. And so you don't know how valuable the service is that you're offering. I am the candidate who represents change. I demand change of our criminal justice system. I've been working to engineer and create change by changing systems and changing policies and changing mindsets. And that takes a very long time to do. Despite the compressed period that we had during COVID, we've accomplished so much. I cannot tell it all. And honestly, my humility keeps me from telling it all because I'm focused on doing the work, but we have created so many programs in the short time that we've been here to really revolutionize change. And so I want to say, in spite of everything I said, crime is not a black and white issue. I'm not just trying to make our system more fair for black and brown people, but there are other unseen marginalized communities like our disabled, our homeless, our are mentally ill, are drug addicted, right? We need to, as a society, find better ways to help those people. And that's what I'm working to create. Because if we treat those root causes, we won't see them in the jail. And I just believe we can do it. I believe Savannah is rich enough in resources, in people, in power. We are rich enough to come together and make it work. And so the last thing I'm going to say, if you are a city or elected official, I implore you. I'm not here to eat dinner at your table. I'm not here to be friends with you. If you don't like me personally and I've done something to you, I'd appreciate you letting me know so we can reconcile it. I'm here to do the work. And so if you have the power and you have the resources, I expect to hear from you. I'll be reaching out to you because this is not about me and it's not about you. It is about the safety and well being of the citizens of this county. So I will continue to, my door is always open to you. And um, and I expect you to return my calls. You know who you are. Okay.
Oh, we thank you so much for being with us this morning. Even if you had to put your seatbelt on, because I know you're fixing to go somewhere. But
Yes.
really, seriously, it has been a true pleasure to have you on the vulnerable community this morning.
Thank
Uh,
you.
we will have you back shortly. I don't know exactly,
I just
maybe a couple of weeks, but we're gonna have you back so that you we can finish this conversation, okay? But
I do want to say one thing. I know we're over time. I'll come back as many times as you have me. So thank you. But I want to thank you individually, Natavia and Brother Irwin. I want to thank you I want to thank you specifically, not just for this platform and opportunity, but I came on the scene at a time when nobody knew me, and I had to build trust and get people to trust me. And y'all hung in there for me, and y'all trusted me. Y'all said, we don't know this girl, but she sounds like she's talking about the right thing. So I want to thank you for never giving up on me, both of you. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Welcome.
You're quite
Thank
welcome.
you.
And this is the Vulnerable Community, and we will be back with you next week, 10 o'clock Tuesday morning. And we look to have someone else that will bring you more information to the community. And maybe the following 2 weeks, we'll have the DA back with us so she can
Okay.
Whatever
complete
you
her
say.
story.
All
Uh,
right.
but until
Whatever
then,
you say, I want you to know Savannah Morning News has featured an article about us in our conviction integrity unit, which we've been working on for quite some time. So I'd love to come back and talk to you about that.
Okay.
okay. No,
All right. I'll make sure I find that
we'll
order.
be there.
All
All right.
right.
So we'll
All
see
right.
everybody next week. Goodbye,
God
everybody.
bless you.
All
Next
right.
week.
God bless you.
Y'all have to
Bye.
be blessed.
All right.
Bye. Thank you.